Time for TV47 News now. It's my hope that your day is coming up well. Here to inform you on what is in the world of news. It's always good doing this. My name is Linda Alela, but first, the highlights. Top on news. Kiambu Senator Karugu Wagathangwa summoned by the DCI over Limuru burial chaos. President Ruto arrives in Tanzania for EAC summit. And the government has confirmed it has terminated its dealings with the Adani Group.
We are also calling upon Kenyans to actually know that indeed, yes, we have actually terminated the Adani contracts.
News now begins now. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, has summoned Kiambu Senator Karungu Wagathangwa over yesterday's Limuru funeral chaos. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was present at the funeral, where he managed to escape unhurt. However, several mourners were injured in the event. Well, away from that unfortunate piece to something positive, President William Ruto has arrived in Arusha for the 24th Ordinary Summit of the East African Community Heads of State. The meeting is expected to dwell on the sustainable financing plan of the bloc. The Constitution of the Political Confederation of the East African Community will also feature in the two-day session. And of course, in the meeting, President Ruto will be joined by the host President Samia Suluhu, Kaguta Museveni of Uganda, Felix Tshisekedi of DRC, Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, Salva Kiir of South Sudan, Hassan Sheikh of Somalia, and Paul Kagame of Rwanda. The summit coincides with the community's marking of 25 years of remarkable progress since its revival. The celebration presents an opportunity to the bloc with a market size of more than 170 million people to take stock of its achievements, challenges, and the future of the integration. Government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura has maintained that the government indeed cancelled the Adani deal with JKIA and Ketraco as per the evidence presented by Treasury CS John Mbadi. Mwaura has urged Kenyans to table their proposals on how best JKIA can be expanded and how the energy transmission can be enhanced across the country.
Where we are also calling upon Kenyans to actually know that indeed, yes, we have actually terminated the Adani contracts. And John Mbadi, the CS for Finance, has made that statement very clear in Parliament. And we call upon Kenyans to give alternatives to energy and airport building and see what is that we can do, because we have to move forward. But PPPs are here to stay because that's why we also want to deploy them in the water sector to ensure that we do not delay our own development. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we are making good progress. Na makatela ambao lazima waingize Adani kila mahali. Hakuna Adani katika mfumo wa SHA. Kwa hivyo Hizo zingine nitasema ni stories za jaba na jazba. Hamna chochote pale.
The Kenya Clinical Officers Association, KCOA, is now calling on President William Ruto to disband the SHA board, arguing it hampers the success of the health scheme. KCOA chairperson Peterson Wachira has criticized the board's decision to exclude dispensaries and level 1 to 3 health facilities from the scheme, despite these outlets handling over 60% of the country's patient services. The association has issued a nationwide strike notice starting next week, vowing to escalate the action and withdraw services entirely by mid-December if their demands are not arrested.
I want to ask the President that we as Kenyans, we heard you when you told us that you wanted a social health insurance to ensure that we are able to, for the first time, have success of UHC. We believed you. But the people that you have put in place under the SHA board to be able to implement the same are letting you down. Because the President said that we are leaving no Kenyan behind. But what we are seeing coming from the board is exclusion of clinic officers, exclusion from contracting the facilities owned by clinic officers and registered by the Clinic Officers Council, and also exclusion from pre-authorization. And just so that Kenyans can understand what we are saying, the majority of the private health facilities in this country, about 65% and above, are owned by clinic officers. When we are denied the right to be contracted and offer services under SHA, it means more than 6 million Kenyans are unable to access health services. And that, by extension, means we cannot achieve UHC. Because UHC is 3 things. People must be able to access health. That health must be of quality. And that quality health care must be accessed without having to incur catastrophic financial expenses.
Well, we'll continue to follow up on that developing story to see whether indeed these concerns will be addressed or not. Now, the governors from the Lake Region Economic Bloc, LREB, are calling for timely disbursement of county funds, which they say will actualize the intended purpose of devolution at the grassroots. Speaking during the second day of the 12th LREB summit, the governors say that their counties are struggling to fund projects and pay pending bills, which now in turn has paralyzed and is sabotaging the main objective of devolution. LREB chairperson Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o has appealed to the Senate to review regulations under private-public partnership, that is to allow development plans for the counties in order to fast-track county projects.
Counties were supposed to get more than 4 billion, and it ended up being 387 billion out of a 3 trillion shilling budget. I think there's a paltry sum if you look at the constitutional responsibilities and mandate in agriculture, health sector, and roads.
I know most of the counties haven't received their September equitable share and October, despite the fact that the money is CRF. We don't want at the end of the financial year to be called out for not spending the money, and yet the Office of the Control of Budget is the one that has problems.
I therefore would like to appeal to the Senate, the National Assembly, and the Council of Governors to review this instrument of development called private-public partnership, to make it amenable for use in counties without the unrealistic and rather unfair legal procedures that are currently required to use PPPs.
The National Council of Churches of Kenya, NCCK, Kisumu branch has urged both the national and county governments to enhance security for locals and residents. Speaking at Nyamasaria Coptic Church, NCCK chairperson Dr. Clement Otieno Oguta condemned the persistent cases of thuggery and abductions in Kisumu and other counties, warning that such incidences could deter international visitors. This call follows the arrest of Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye in Kenya, that is by individuals initially identified as Kenyan security personnel, later revealed to be Ugandan nationals.
You find people are attacked next to the police posts.
A security issue. People being abducted, left, right, and center. Yeah. Just recently, Besigye was transported back to Uganda, arrested in Kenya. We are told that the people who came introduced themselves as Kenya police, but after being bungled into a vehicle, they turned to be Uganda personnel. Why should we have police who cannot be identified? We know that our police have been given numbers for identification. We know that our police are supposed to be in uniform when they are working for identification. But today, people come dressed funnily, having masks covering their faces, and then they arrest you. You don't know who is taking you. We don't know how long time this should take, and we don't know who is responsible. And this has been a problem because we don't know who to challenge. If the money has been released and the governor is ready to work, we don't understand who is this that is holding the money down.
Now, the Kakamega Deputy Governor Ayub Savula has condemned the violent disruption of a funeral in Limuru on November 28th, where a group of individuals believed to be political goons attacked mourners and forced former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua to flee. The incident, which resulted in property damage and injuries among attendees, occurred during the burial service for Erastus Ndwati, with Gachagua present as a guest eyewitness. And eyewitnesses account described chaos as the attackers dismantled the tent housing VIPs and hurled objects at the crowd, leading to scene of panic and destruction. Savula emphasized the need for political leaders to engage in respectful dialogue rather than resorting to violence as well as disruption, to focus on fulfilling their mandates and working collaboratively, for the benefit of the public. The motives behind the attack remain unclear, but Gachagua has suggested that it may have been politically motivated, raising concerns about his security after recent claims that the government had withdrawn his protection.
What I saw yesterday happening in Limuru, it's so shameful. Viongozi tuheshimiane. And what happened in Limuru is also what happened in Ikolomani hapa. Mimi nimekuwa bunge huko na mama Elsi, lakini sijaona hiyo tabia. Hii rungu anataka kupiga gavana na rungu. Hiyo hapana, tuachane hii maneno. Whoever wants to stand, asimame 2027. Lakini saa hii kama ni MCA apewe nafasi afanye development kwa ward yake. Kama ni MP, give opportunity to that member of parliament afanye kazi yake akitumia CDF kwa constituency yake. Kama ni women rep, apewe nafasi afanye kazi yake na hiyo milioni yake 7 million per person. Kama ni senator, apewe nafasi yake. Governor apewe nafasi yake afanye kazi yake. Si ndio hivyo? Kila mtu afanye na tuheshimiane. Kama naibu ya governor, support the governor to implement the agenda of the county.
All right, and the National Council of the Administration of Justice, NCAJ, in conjunction with Equality Now, held the inaugural Gender Justice Awards Gala, targeted at celebrating and recognizing the incredible efforts of justice actors, both state and non-state, who continue to work tirelessly to provide justice for survivors of sexual as well as gender-based violence across the country. Happening at the Imara Ole Sereni Hotel in Nairobi, an event presided over by the Chief Justice Martha Koome. The justice players called on government and society to cooperate with them in making gender justice processes seamless. The Gender Justice Awards were conceptualized as the brainchild of NCAJ's Standing Committee on Court Users Committees, that is CUCS, and Equality Now, to recognize the tremendous work justice actors, both state and non-state undertake to avail justice to survivors of sexual and gender-based violence that is across the country. Several counties and their governors were befitted, including Kwale Governor Fatuma Achani and Kisumu Governor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o.
We began marking 16 days of activism on the 25th and 26th with a rape laws report. We did an analysis of laws that proscribe or legislate against rape in the entire continent, including in Kenya, and so that we could understand the gaps that are allowing SGBV to continue without accountability. Today, we've convened judges, magistrates, prosecutors, police, children officers, doctors, and all the actors who respond to incidents of sexual and gender-based violence, and who their own colleagues have voted and indicated that they actually serve justice and they serve survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. We've begun conversations with the state and with non-state actors to understand why, and to also understand the need to put in place a law in response of it. Because yes, we do have a law against murder, and we do have a law against rape and sexual violence, but when we do recognize this offense as femicide, then we will be able to document the cases and know how pervasive it is, and we also, in knowing the numbers, we'll be able to respond to it. And thirdly, we will know that it's not just any other murder, but it's actually systematic and something that we need to actually respond to. To a great extent, our laws are robust. There are a few gaps that need to be addressed, and indeed, there's a process of doing that. We need to strengthen our laws. We need to begin to ensure that there's actually responsive nature to survivors, and they are at the center of it. But I think at the heart of our issues is a need to implement the laws. And I think it's time for the county governments to begin to understand their rightful role in actually addressing sexual and gender-based violence. And so it's not just about investigation and prosecution, it's also prevention. And so having conversations within the community, putting in place programs within the community to help both sexes to live in harmony as opposed to having violations one against the other.
Water Cabinet Secretary Eric Muga has defended the government's push for private-public partnership, PPS, to revive stalled water projects despite efforts to improve access, that is to clean water. Significant funding gaps continue to hamper the progress of key water initiatives. And according to Eric Muga, well, the financial challenges have led the government, that is to partner with private players for implementation of major water infrastructure projects. And of course, he was speaking at the 36th graduation ceremony at the Kenya Water Institute, KEWI, where over 1,200 students graduated with water engineering diplomas. Muga said the government is struggling to raise the 500 billion shillings needed to complete incomplete water projects.
Isaac, Jepchirchir, John, Juma, Kaim, Abongu, Ambuso, Awor, Bilahi, Branda, Geoffrey, Indura. Saida, Samuel, Sam, Sugodi, Emily, Fahad, Faisal, Farah, Faria, Fufa, George.
Now, Pan-African Parliament legislatures from Kenya have continued agitating to drive towards the realization of common tariffs for the larger African continent. Speaking in academic forum at the University of Nairobi, aimed at integrating academia with the clarion call for Pan-Africanism, Tana River Senator, who is a member of the Pan-African Parliament, has lauded efforts made by the East African region in removing inter-border cumbersomeness in transacting business, while Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Kore Sing'oei, has emphasized on the need for positioning Nairobi as a premier multilateral capital center, a position he says Kenya is strategically placed for.
We have to have, at the end, a platform where African countries can trade, where you can go from here with your Kenya shillings, you are able to buy stuff in Senegal, you are able to buy stuff in Uganda, you are able to go to Somalia and trade, not the dollar or the euro or the yen. So in our monetary affairs, we are trying to struggle to see what we can do. And so far, in the Western African region, there is a platform that has been created, and they are trying to popularize that. In East Africa, we are still struggling because we are still, the common currency here is still the dollar. Although you can exchange easily, if you have Kenya shillings, you're in Uganda or Tanzania, you can easily exchange, but still, when you are trading, we are using foreign currency. So from our Monetary Affairs Committee, our struggle is to make sure eventually we will establish a central bank or a bank that will be able to handle all our activities and then have a currency that will be able to allow trade across Africa.
Guest of honor, I just want to say something about the committee I sit in. I sit in the Committee of Trade, Customs, and Immigration. A committee that looks at, first, what will unite Africa. We said, if we want to be united, break the borders that we were given by colonialists. For you to break the borders, you can only cross a border if you are carrying something. So we want to have trade as the key to integrating Africa. And for that trade to take place, we must have free movement of people and free movement of goods. Because if you are sending your goods to Lagos, you must follow at some point. So one of the areas of focus, chief guest, is that one passport for Africa.
Environmental conservationists have called for the use of both the scientific and indigenous knowledge systems of conserving the environment so as to ensure that there's an all-around approach in the mitigation of climate change. And according to Gaduru Buru, our director at Ngatho Foundation, the fight against climate change must be won, while stakeholders must desist from using science, indigenous or practitioners' knowledge alone and instead be used collaboratively. Now, the conservationists say that the use of a single knowledge system in climate change mitigation, be it scientific or indigenous, has proven not to be successful.
The essence of multiple evidence base is how each distinct knowledge system is contributing to alleviating the problems and the challenges that humanity and the environment are facing today, and especially climate change.
We've seen fires, we've seen drought, but if we come together and also look into our traditional ways of growing crops which are resistant, crops which are adaptable to our area and protecting the environment, then we are able to have a resilient community.
It is the knowledge that the community have, the science that we have already done based on research. How do we integrate all this knowledge geared towards conservation of our environment?
Sports News.
In outer sports, national women's football team Harambee Starlets held their first training session in Morocco ahead of the 2 international friendly matches. Coach Beldine Odemba and her squad will take on Morocco today evening in their first fixture, and they will next take on the same opposition, that is next Tuesday. Coach Odemba's squad features a blend of experienced players and emerging talents, notably Junior Starlets captain Elizabeth Ochaka and Christine Adhiambo have earned their first senior call-ups, both impressed during the FIFA Women's Under-17 World Cup, and are set to strengthen the team's defensive option.
It's the first time kuitwa, nimefurahia kuitwa national team, kuja kucheza hii game mbili.
Na feel poa sana because nilikuwa na hopes that kuna siku niende itwa national team, moso senior, na ndio hii Mungu ameniwezeshea nimefika.
Kezi ya leo imekuwa poa. Ni kujituma tu.
Yes, on that very story, Kenya is expected to take on Morocco. That is on a Friday evening. Also, that is on a friendly game, while they will also play the host. That is next Tuesday. Now, Homa Bay County youth have been encouraged to shun drug abuse and focus on nurturing their talents as a pathway to personal growth and success. Speaking during the event where Jacob Mutunga tournament launch was happening in Fungamano Island, Homa Bay County Commissioner Moses Lilan applauded the community that is for supporting such initiatives, highlighting the alignment with the competency-based curriculum that is a CBC in promoting holistic education. The tournament, which has drawn significant attention in the region, promises a grand prize of 100,000 for the winning team, further motivating youth to channel their energy into positive activities.
To invite you to nurture this talent, we are headed to greatness. And I know in the current setup of government's plans on education through CPC, we will get a lot of people majoring in exploiting their talents.
There are so many things. If you are somebody who takes drugs, you'll be tested when you go to play in international games and you'll be banned from the game. The same way we tell you, don't get into those kind of things. Drug abuse, there must be self-discipline. You know very many good players in life who've ended up ruining their career because of lack of discipline. Yet they are very talented. And you can go on and list some of those players.
And we do it in the same week as the Masomo tournament. The winner from here and the winner from that side will meet again so that we crown the final winner of both tournaments.
And crossing over to the international stage, Manchester United came from behind to hammer Bodo Glimt, that is 3-2 in the Europa League last night, and secured